In this episode today, episode number 2,
try to share not only my journey but also the journey that I've experienced with my clients over the last 10 years being a coach in the industry, things that I've seen around other competitors in the bodybuilding industry, in different scenes, powerlifting niches, CrossFit, so many different sports that tend to be having a lot of the same struggles. So that is what we're going to be doing as part of this podcast.
Welcome to the Breakthrough the Bullshit podcast. I am your host, Alice Round. I am pumped to have you here. We are going to really strip back all of the bullshit surrounding nutrition, training, fad diets, everything in the industry so that we can give you education to get the best possible results. So sit back, enjoy the ride, and let's go through all this bullshit.
And I am going to try and take you on a journey. We are going to basically break through all the bullshit that's out there in the industry. We're going to remove all the fad diets. We're going to try to really call people out on all the shit that's in the industry that has been tried and tested and failed and flopped, and all of those things in the industry that have gone wrong for so many years, but well and truly before I was even in this industry. And I'm really hoping that it's going to help you get some clarity around which direction you want to go down with your own fitness journey, your nutritional journey, and just your mindset journey as well. Because the three really come together as one, and that's something that a lot of people forget along the way, and they're too busy looking for this pill or quick fix or fad diet or whatever it is, and stopping to actually think, is this going to solve my solutions? Is this going to solve the problem? So I'll definitely be getting into that topic in future podcasts. But for this first one, I guess I just want to share a little bit of my own journey with you, where I'm at now, where I've come from, and why I feel like getting my message out there is hopefully going to, I know it's going to empower others, especially women, because that's generally the clientele I work with and what I'm most passionate about, because I feel like there's not enough strong, badass women in this industry alone and just in life in general. And I'm definitely all about female empowerment and creating strong, independent women that don't need no man. And if you choose to have one, making sure that you're in a really positive relationship as well, and that you're happy with your relationship and everything. So I'm sure we'll even be touching on those sort of areas as well. Because relationships obviously have a massive impact on your mindset as well. So if you're trying to, say, drop body fat or, get leaner, all of these things, there's so many external factors that sometimes we forget about that come into play, like our mindset, like our stresses from relationships or from work, or all of these things. So I want to try help you break through those issues that you might be having and offer some solutions that I might have seen with clients or with personal experiences, and just really go on a journey with you guys listening as well. So I thank you for tuning in. All right, so let's get into a little bit of a backstory. We will go back to kind of where it all began for me. So the reason that I got into the fitness industry, if a lot of you probably don't know who I am listening to this podcast, some of you might have heard a bit of my journey before, but I've never really delved that deep into it. I will make sure this podcast isn't too long today and boring, so I will go through the kind of the milestones in my life where all the key turning points for things, or the key power plays in your life that have really affected where you are today. And that's something that's really important to help clients break through and really change where they are at today. If they're in positions of fear or lacking confidence, it all tends to stem from things that probably happened early on in life. So for me, I came from a track and field background. I was a sprinter. I wasn't amazing, but I was pretty good. I had state records and placed, won a lot of state titles, and at more of a junior level. And then growing up, realizing that the hours and the commitment that I would have had to dedicate it to athletics for it to get me anywhere was going to be really difficult. And it wasn't that I didn't want to face that challenge, but I started being a personal trainer when I was 18 and I was still running, and the hardest part was that running always interfered with when clients would need you in the gym. So those afternoon clients, I just started in the industry, so you kind of wanted to take any client you could get, And I started realizing with my athletics that I was really passionate about the nutritional side of things, because I thought that maybe nutrition could also improve my athletic performance on the track. So I was a 400-meter runner, which obviously it's really important to optimize energy, reduce lactic acid buildup, all of those sort of things when you're running a track event of that kind of intensity. So at that point, I started studying sports science, and a lot of people didn't know at the time when I was actually running track, from about the age of 16, I think it started, to on and off till I was like 18, I was battling with bulimia. And a lot of people don't actually know this about me. And it's something that I probably have talked a little bit about, I think, on YouTube, but I haven't really opened up about it massively before. But it's definitely where I am today because of that. And a lot of people tend to get into an industry because they're struggling with something themselves. You know, a lot of psychologists study psychology because they've got their own shit going on and they're trying to figure it out. And for me, that was why I got so interested in nutrition. I knew that this vicious cycle of, you know, binging and purging and then trying to run and be really athletically successful was not a cycle that I could stay in. It wasn't healthy, and I wanted to be a role model and you know, be internally happy, and I just wasn't at that point. And I try to really align what the triggers were with the bulimia going on, and it's very hard to nail down specifically what it was. But for me, a big one was my parents were getting divorced. That obviously took its toll on me, and I think people forget things like that affecting you. The other big one was body image. I was 16. I had just gotten, sorry guys, my menstrual cycle, and started gaining a little bit of body fat. I'd always been the skinny kid. I'd always been the skinny, athletic one. Started gaining a tiny bit of body fat, and I thought I was completely overweight, which is crazy. Looking back on it, I was probably, 50 kilos, maybe less, around that point when I was 16, 17. And because I had muscle on me from athletics, I saw images of skinny females, and that was what everyone wanted to be back then. And I wasn't skinny. I was muscly and athletic, and looking back on it, I had a great little physique, but you don't see it when you're in the moment. So that caused, I had very low self-confidence, and all throughout high school I struggled with self-confidence, and a lot of people didn't know that as well, because on the exterior I was quite a strong person and doing so well in sport and academics and all of those things. But internally I hated going to school. I hated being in social situations. The only place that I felt comfortable was athletics, was at the track. That was my family and my home. And at school I just didn't fit in. It was too much about image and boys and all of these things, and that definitely stemmed what was going on with the bulimia. And then from there I knew it wasn't right, and I started wanting to be a personal trainer, and I realized that that wasn't something that I could have, holding me back whilst I'm trying to help people with their own lives. So I started studying nutrition, and I did come out of that cycle by talking to a few people about it. My mom, and she finally found out, and a few other people. And I eventually weaned out of that behavior and began to start eating healthier, and working with a psychologist at that time. Started studying sports science, nutrition at university, and learning that there was a better way to do it. Learning that, carbs weren't the enemy, and that, or ultra low fat diet wasn't the enemy. I tried a lot of things, but never really stuck anything out. I remember when I was in year 11, and I tried a diet where I just ate fruit, and I tried a diet where I didn't eat anything until 2 o'clock, and then I tried the opposite where I didn't eat anything after 6 p.m, which was crazy because I'd always run for 1-2 hours in the evening. And all these short, small fad diets that never worked, because I never stuck them out more than, a few days, and then I'd have a binge, and it'd be that same vicious cycle of restriction, binge, hate yourself. So all of that was going on. It probably went on heavily for 6 months, and then within about a year I was able to control it, and then it got to the point where it was maybe happening once every 6 months, and then pretty much finished by the time I was 18. So that was quite difficult, and I still, even though coming out of that, I still wasn't happy or confident in my physique and anything like that. And it really took a while to be okay with the things that were going on in my life. And a big one for me was getting myself educated. So studying sports science, studying nutrition, all of those things really made me see that there was a better way and that I wanted to help educate more women on that. They don't have to be scared of food, they just have to learn about food and about what to put in their bodies. So that was a big struggle for me, and a big turning point was my mum hearing me vomit and hearing me in the bathroom, and I used to run the shower so that she couldn't hear it. And of course, I lived at home. My whole family could hear it. They all knew what was going on, and no one was talking about it. It was just like this elephant in the room whilst my parents were getting divorced. And when I look back on it, it was a big cry for attention. I had no confidence. I didn't feel that, certain people, like my mum, I didn't feel like she loved me at that point in my life, and we have our struggles with that relationship back then. But all of these things, I didn't know that they were going on in my brain because I wasn't old enough to compute and understand certain feelings and emotions. So looking back on it, I can now see why it's where I am today and why I'm so passionate about helping people. So that's a little bit about where I got where I am. From there, my journey really changed. I kind of went to the opposite extreme, and I again have quite a strong personality where I want to be able to be successful at things. And I started PTing, and that was going really well. Then I started working at a gym that had a couple of past people in the gym do bodybuilding shows, and I started following a couple of girls that were doing IFBB bikini, and they were, I remember following Nina Silic and Summer Bernard, and it's really funny because those two girls have actually become, especially Summer to this day, have become some of my really good friends, and Nina along the way as well. We have been very close. So it's interesting how I saw them more as idols and then became on that level with them of growing really strong friendships and them feeling like family along the way. So they were the two girls that, we always used to go in and do cardio together and go on that journey together. And so comp prep for me was, I had basically been in a horrible relationship for 4 years, from the age of 18, kind of the end of the bulimia stage, to 22, 21, 22, it was around that age. I'd been in this terrible relationship, and it was the relationship that broke you, that literally gave you no self-confidence, that it left you feeling just like an empty shell and like that you were worthless. So I'd already had all these confidence issues before, and then I get in this relationship where it's constantly a roller coaster of someone lying to me and treating me horribly, and me putting up with it because I had no confidence to leave and no confidence to go, I deserve better than this, because I didn't think that I deserved any better than that at that point in my life. So from there, I made a decision, me and that person made a decision to go our separate ways, and it was all amicable, and I got out of that situation in my life, and it was probably the best thing I ever did. So after that, very interesting, this one, I'll probably get judgment for it, but I'd saved some money to go and visit that person, and made the decision then to not spend that money on a trip over to Europe, and I actually went and got my breasts augmentated. So that had been something that had always been a massive self-confidence issue for me for my whole life. Feeling like a boy, I was more muscular, I didn't have breasts, all of those things for me, and I did it for myself, for my own self-confidence. And after I got that done, people actually say, well, you shouldn't get it done if you've got low self-confidence and blah, blah, blah. It's a load of shit. I felt 10 times better after I got it done. It made me feel more sexy, more womanly, embrace my curves a little more in terms of muscle, all of those things. And then after that, I couldn't run, I couldn't train because of the augmentation. Obviously, I had to have a break. I started working in a gym, like I said before, that was more into the bodybuilding scene, and my rehab from the augmentation was more resistance training and really like slow muscle isolation. And I started really getting a feel for enjoying weight training. And so from there, I decided that I was going to have a break from the track. I'd had a few injuries, and I thought I'll prep for my first bodybuilding show. I didn't really know a lot about it, but I was at the point in my life where I was in a new relationship, in a happy relationship with someone that built me up and didn't tear me down, and that was a really positive cheerleader in my life. So they encouraged me to do it. And I was around positive people in the work environment that were all encouraging me to do this first show. And I just trusted everything that these professionals said to me. At this point, I forgot to mention that I was actually studying sports science and dietetics. Even then, I started in my master's degree. And you'd think I'd know better, but I let these coaches really brainwash me, and I trusted in them because they knew about bodybuilding. And I believed that what I'd learned at university oh, it must be different because it's not bodybuilding related. When at the end of the day, science and nutrition is key, not some fad that they're trying to talk me into. So anyway, I believe these coaches, and I prepped for, I think it was 12 weeks only, which wasn't massive, but I wasn't that fat at that point. I think my body fat at the start was about 14 or 16% on pinches that were very unreliable. I'd say that would have been more like about 20-22%, so on a DEXA scan. Anyway, I did the prep. It was a full-on keto. I did not have a refeed. I did not have a cheat meal. I stuck to it to a T. I remember stuffing up my food by having like a rice cake or like an extra portion of protein, maybe a square of chocolate. I think I did like 2 or 3 tiny fuck ups in this whole 12-week hell diet, and I got absolutely berated for it by my coaches. They made me feel guilty. They made me feel like I was worthless. They made me feel like just terrible about the human that I was, even though I was so lean and I was dropping fat every single week, and I was actually becoming really malnourished. I stopped dropping body fat and I just kept dropping weight. So obviously that's a sign that my body was starting to lose muscle, because I was in such a calorically restricted place that your body will hold on to fat storage at the end and start getting rid of muscle. So I kept dieting down, and when I didn't know what macros were back then. Like, I knew what protein, carbs, fat were. I knew all of that from university, but I never really thought about calculating my macros, so to speak. So I went back and calculated it, and I was eating, for the highest point in prep, maybe 1,400 calories. And I'd say for the end point, I was around like this 800, 900 for the last couple of weeks, when they literally stripped the fats out of my diet. It was pretty much just protein and green vegetables. At that point, I had severe bloating. I was losing muscle. I felt like shit. I was falling asleep at lectures in uni, and I knew that none of this was right, but I trusted these professionals. So I was going to do everything. I was the model client. And even though my gut told me like this wasn't right, it was starting to ruin my relationships. My hair started getting really thin. I'd lost my period well and truly. And I just kept going because I was like, well, I'm going to stick it through. Maybe this isn't for me, but like, let's see what happens. And at the end of it, I got on stage and I was 49 kilos, I believe, in my first IFBB show. And I looked so malnourished. I looked so skinny. I looked gaunt. I looked unhealthy. And I didn't place. I think I came 4th. And I went and got feedback from the judges. And I just genuinely asked them, because I was also nervous as hell on stage and did not know how to pose because no one taught me properly. And I had no idea what to expect. Down to my bikini color being wrong. My tan wasn't a professional spray tan. It was just like some spray tanner, just randomly, that I got recommended to go to. Same with my hair and makeup. It wasn't someone that was specific for a comp. So I just didn't look the part. And I went to the head judge and I said, look, do you think I even have any future in this sport? Be honest with me, because if I don't, I'll just stop here. Like, I'm a competitive person. Like, I want to do well in this. If you think I have a chance, if you think I can make changes, I will do the work. And he said to me, you need to eat. You need to eat up. You need to put some fat on. You need to put some muscle on your bones. You need to sort out how you're walking on stage to not look like you're walking like a crazy person. You need to smile. You need to look healthy, and you need to look sexy. And for me, that was like a big, like, wow. Like, I thought this was a dieting contest. I thought it was about getting skinny. I didn't think about the beauty factor, the poise, the confidence. I didn't have any confidence at this point, so how was I meant to exude that on stage? So that was a big breakthrough for me, that first comp. It was like, you think you have your shit together, you think your body looks pretty banging, but if you're not internally happy, people will see that on the outside. That will reflect on stage. So that was a big point in my life where I was like, okay, I know I want to do this again, because I still had fun doing it. I know I didn't do it right. So I then went on, I left that location where I was working, definitely fired those coaches, and started working with some coaches in America who I'd been stalking, who were in the sort of metabolic health industry. I started watching YouTube videos. I started following people like Lane and all these people. This was years back in 2013, I believe. And for the next show, I didn't get prepped by Lane then. I was kind of just started following his stuff. I got prepped by another coach in the US, and it was a much better diet. They fed me carbs. They didn't have me doing extremes. It was still a little bit bro. It was still, you know, my 5-6 meals a day, but I still had rice and sweet potato and certain food groups that I'd been missing before. So that was a much better prep. but it still didn't feel to me like flexibility. I still was in this restrictive like diet for the comp, and then I get so lost afterwards. So I think in the first season I did about 6 or 7 shows, and I started doing quite well, winning shows, going to nationals, winning there, and that was where I met Lane. I met Lane at FitX, which is now the Arnold's, in 2000, I do believe it was the start of 2014, and I literally had just stepped off stage and won a short class at FitX, and I bumped into him, and I've been following him on YouTube. And I just started chatting to him, and he was talking to me about my prep and what was going on, and explained everything to him. And he was like, girl, you need to have a break. Like, you need to have a break. You can't keep competing. And he was chatting to me about flexible dieting. And at that point, it was kind of a turning point for me, where it made me realize that if I didn't compete, I didn't have anything. I didn't have a clear goal. I didn't know what to do off season. I didn't really have any structure in my life. So Lane really helped me with not only coaching me, but just really clearing up clarity, obsession with competing, obsession with dieting, obsession with body image. Even though I kept competing, and he prepped me for the World Championships that September after making me gain a few healthy kilos, getting my mindset right around that. After the Worlds, had a really good experience. I placed in the top 10, which was our goal. And then I kind of said to Lane, and he kind of said to me, and we kind of made a joke about it. He's like, you don't really need me anymore. We're kind of at a good position in our relationship where he taught me what I needed to learn from him. We're in a great place, and we kind of left it at that, and just now friends, and I'll still do his camps and chat to him. But there comes a point where sometimes you don't need a coach, where they've helped you get to that breakthrough point, and then you're like, good to go. And after that, I found a much better balance. I took a nice big break from competing. I started eating out more. I started practicing flexible dieting. I started enjoying my life. I started having better relationships. And then I actually decided to be single. Got out of another little bit toxic relationship, and I was single for a whole year. Maybe a bit longer, maybe a year and a half. And it was probably the best thing I ever did. And it really let me have time to understand that you need to be happy with yourself before you're happy in a relationship. And that was a really big turning point for me. So I was off season, I gained some body fat, I was not competing, I didn't have any clear comp goals, but I was actually in a really good position. I was happier, I was more balanced, I was going out with my friends and being social. I used to be scared of social situations. All of these positive steps forward in my life to get me in this much better place, all through more flexible dieting, more positive relationships with my body and mindset, more self-love, more self-nourishment. I got a puppy. That was the best thing I ever did, getting a little Buffy, my first puppy. Now she has a best friend. But all of these little things that come in along your journey to make you the better person where you are today. And I do believe having that background in track and that commitment to training and all of that has set me up to be a very dedicated person, and to someone that always feels like I need a goal. So I went from the track, I went to the comps, and the last couple of years I haven't really done any of that. And the funny thing is I've probably been the happiest I have in a while, because I haven't felt the need to constantly be chasing after something. I ticked off something off my bucket list last year, which was competing in my first powerlifting comp. I got a 360 total kilos, and that was an awesome experience, but it wasn't something that took up a lot of brain space to do. And I think as women, we need to understand that there doesn't always need to be like a clear endpoint. There doesn't need to be a clear goal all the time. You need to have goals. I believe in goals. I believe they keep you accountable. But I don't believe that sometimes they have to be as defined as like fat loss, or defined as this or that. They can be defined in a mindset point of view or a business point of view, or there's so many other things that we can focus on that are still encompassing health, that are still encompassing a positive body relationship, but they're not, the be all and end all is not always getting on stage. I have so many girls that email me and say, oh, I want a comp body, but I don't want to compete. So can you prep me for that? But I'm not going to get on stage. And I'm like, I would diet you the exact same as I would someone getting ready on stage. The only things that would differ would probably be the last couple of weeks. You said to me, I've got to go on a holiday in 8 weeks. I want to look the leanest I've ever looked, amazing. I'd be like, cool, let's do it. It's the same sort of process. People think that there's some secret pill or potion that when it comes to comp prep, it gets you that extra lean. You know what that secret ingredient is that gets you extra lean? It's hard fucking work, and it's consistency and compliancy. It's also the fact that you have to get on a bikini in front of thousands of people in 8-10 weeks. you will bust your ass to get there. When you don't have something in your mind that motivates you enough to work that hard on your own, then you may struggle. So if you are someone that struggles with actually compliancy and sticking to your goals, then you need to be more specific in what's stopping you from getting there. Because often it's just saying to yourself and accepting with yourself that you're not clear enough either in your goal or you don't want it bad enough. That's another big one. I haven't competed for the last 3 years to be honest, and I haven't wanted it bad enough. And I promised myself that I wouldn't try a comp prep until I wanted it bad enough to get back on stage. And that's a big one with competitors that keep competing over and over again because they feel lost and they can't do anything but compete and off season. And that causes a lot of problems in their life. So that is kind of my story, where I'm at today. So now today I still prep a few competitors, but I'm definitely more about empowering women to try to find why, if their goal is fat loss, why are they trying to lose fat? Are they trying to lose fat to look better in a bikini? They're trying to lose fat to attract some hot guy? They're trying to lose fat for body confidence? What is that actually about? Because it has to mean something. You can't just, I want to be leaner. What does that actually mean to you? How will it make you feel? So start to ask these questions to yourself when you have a goal. What is that goal actually about? Because if you attach a feeling with it or an emotion with it, you're going to be more compliant, more consistent, and understand if that goal is really right for you. So that is kind of wrapping up the first little episode and intro to this podcast. I really hope you enjoy coming on this journey to breaking through all of the bullshit out there with me. We'll be running through some of the terrible fad diets. We'll be running through bad supplements, bad different training programs, bad cardio, all of these sort of things on this podcast, and then also delving into a lot of mindset too. I'll be having some experts on as well, experts for mindset, experts for coaching, experts for all different things, as well as probably getting some clients on who can share their journeys with you, other women that maybe have been on a journey where they've come out the other side in a really positive fashion, and to just show people that where you are today isn't the end result of where you're going to be. Like you can see, I came from, not a lot of people know that, I came from bulimia, I came from dealing with, bad relationships, unhappy, emotionally abusive relationships, and an eating disorder, to being an empowering figure for women today, and being content with my life and happy with my life, happy with whether I have a bit of extra body fat or whether I'm stage lean, or happy with all of those factors and just accepting where we are today. So I never have any judgment over someone with their goals. We all have goals for a reason, but we need to figure out what they are, and then I can help that client get there. So that is my goal for this podcast. I just want to give you guys free info. I want to give you free content. I want to give you little things that can, fingers crossed, help you with your day-to-day. I don't feel like there's enough podcasts out there that are honest with females about these topics. So if you have any topics at all that you love covered, you can shoot me an email to info@aliceround.com. You can jump on aliceround.com, the website, and you can hit our services or inquiries tab. There are so many ways you can get at me. You can get at me on Snapchat, that's at Ali Round. Get at me at Instagram, Snapchat, yeah, that's right. Instagram, Ali Round, Facebook page, and so many other ways, YouTube. So hit me up wherever, and if you want it to be about the podcast, you can always use the hashtag Breakthrough Bullshit on Instagram, on Facebook, whatever you want. If you use that hashtag, I can go search for it, and then you can also tag me in your journeys so that I can share your stories as well, because that's what it's all about, helping each other, empowering each other, and just getting rid of all the bullshit out there, getting rid of the stuff that stops you from being happy in yourself and your fitness journey, and understanding that you're not going to be at your end goal right now. It's going to take time. It's going to take you to stop looking for the quick fix. It's going to take all of these things. But then when you come out the other side of it, you're going to be so much happier, because you're going to be able to sustain this for your whole lifestyle. Your whole mindset's going to be improved. So we need to remember that fitness isn't just about nutrition and training. It's about everything, encompassing it all. So I will sign off at this point. Thank you so much if you got through this first episode. Again, if there's anything, any content you want to hear, all of that, shoot me an email. I had an awesome time rambling with you today, and I hope to see you in the next exciting episode, and I'll chat to you soon. Bye.